And welcome everybody to episode 189 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from at 6 different Western New York locations and a location in Rochester. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. Tell them Two Goalies, One Mic sent you. A lot of big news in Sabres land today, but we're here first and foremost to talk about the Rochester Americans matchup starting tomorrow night against the Laval Rocket, joined by Dan Fetes from 13 Wham Sports. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. You're the man to go. You're the man to watch when it comes to all Rochester Amerks coverage out of Rochester. So happy you could hop on with us.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. This Amerks team they're fun. They really are fun.
So,
absolutely.
Oh no, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
No, they have been very fun. I was especially enjoying Devin Levi's back-to-back shutouts to lead to the sweep in that last series. That was unreal. Dude was standing on his head.
Yeah, his numbers have been incredible. Dan.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like when you talk about, because I sat down with Devin around this time before the playoffs last year, and when you talk about like a player and you compare whether it's teams or you compare players about how they are this year, it seems like a knock as to what they were the year before. And that's not what I want to say this, but he just feels so much more invested and comfortable in Rochester. Last year when I did a story with him and I sat down and just wanted to get a sense of, hey, this top prospect coming off this incredible season, these high expectations. And he talked about at times he didn't even know when he would wake up from his naps, like where he was, like before games. Like, am I with the Sabres? Am I with the Amerks? And he kind of talks about like it's a cool challenge, and I'm up for the challenge of juggling all these things. But to talk to him this year, he's like, I'm comfortable, like I'm settled. And this year he said, this is my team. And like, that's not to say that he wasn't the guy last year in Rochester or with Buffalo, but just you can sense the comfort, the calmness, and you've seen it reflected in his play between the net of like, he just is so much more focused. And I remember asking him, and I did a story with him about how, and I know Matthew Fairburn also did a story with him about he still like he has his home in Buffalo.
Yep.
And on days off, he goes back home and he's like, I just want to do adult things. And I was like, he kind of laughed. He's like, not like that. He goes, I just want to like do the dishes and watch a movie and things like that. And he's like, he's a very introspective guy. I think a lot of goalies are a little bit unique to have pieces of rubber shot at your head at 90 miles per hour. And he has that perspective of a veteran, you know, like the Amerks, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. Like they have 13 days since they swept Syracuse to when they played tomorrow night. And it's like, we're asking all the players, oh, how difficult is this and all these things. And the one thing Devin said was, he's like, yeah, like you want to be in rhythm. And he goes, but the great thing is he goes, we're going to get 13 days of consistent sleep. I'm going to go to bed at the same time every night. I'm going to wake up the same time every morning. He's like, that's huge. And it's like, he's like 23 years old, like to think about like his sleep and that kind of things. Like he just is so much more himself, I feel like, if that makes sense, of like, I'm comfortable where I am. And I asked him this year and I go, people see getting called up to play in the NHL is awesome, and being sent down to Rochester sucks. And like, that was my question, like just kind of left it open-ended. And he's like, that's not the case. He's like, that's not it at all. Like this, I'm where I need to be. This is where I need to develop. And you're seeing it this year more than ever.
Yeah. Like, and I'll pull the graphic down here, but like, we've had Devin on this show, actually. It was a week or two before he decided to go back to Northeastern for one more year. You know, just through friends of his family, we were able to get him on. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like, how headstrong this kid is incredible. Like I'm not saying I'm comparing him directly to this guy, but the way he views the game, the way he speaks, there's a reason why media goes to Devin Levi after games. There's a reason why they want to talk to him, because the way he's able to articulate things, the way he sees the game, it's very reminiscent to me to Ryan Miller. It is. It just, I know people want to say like, that might seem not me saying he's going to translate the same way Ryan Miller did in the NHL, but it's just so reminiscent, and it's so cool to have the whole Jedi thing too. Like, it's
because I talked to him before. He did the narration for when Ryan Miller was inducted into the Amerks Hall of Fame, and I kind of sat down with him, and that was part of the time where I was asking him about it. Like, he's such a student of the game. I was like, did you ever watch? And I know he has such a tight knit connection with Roberto Luongo, and I was like, hey, like, what's it like with Miller? And he's like, that was like my childhood, like watching Ryan Miller kind of come up there. And I was like, you're watching the Olympics and you're watching Team USA and like what Ryan Miller is doing. And they have that meditation, that mental game, and
Miller
it's
on the bench. Yep.
Yeah. And you talk about too, last year, there was a little bit of a sense of like, who are you and why are you talking to me? A little bit. And I don't mean that in a mean way. This year, he's so much more free with the media. Like we did the joke around I just did a story about their Amerks motto has been GITFO. And somebody asked him after game 2 when he had the shutout, and it was like, what does this shirt mean? And he's like, I can't really say it. It was like, it's funny. Like, you get a personal side and you get perspective and in-depth answers about, I'm trying to, he's so mechanical at times. And last year I talked about, like, he was painting and like that was freeing to him because he compared painting to goaling, to being a goalie where, there's one way to make art, but then there's a completely different way. And, we talk so much about angles and you're trying to read systems and anticipate plays. And I go, you can talk about all that stuff, Devin, but I go, sometimes don't you think like, just stop the damn puck? And he kind of laughed and he's like, he goes, this time off has made me think about like when I was playing street hockey as a kid, I didn't know anything that what I know now. And he goes, the goal is just to keep the puck out of the net. And so he is so in depth, so knowledgeable, but being a goalie is really simple. And Mike Leone kind of says it best, like you win games by keeping the puck out of your net. And so he has that joyfulness. They talk about how much he practices. They have to pull him off the ice. They've given him scheduled days off, like not like prima donna treatment, Leone was saying, but like he practices so hard. Sometimes it's like, you can't practice today, man. Like you're playing so many games. We want you to be the guy, but the way he takes care of his body, all of those things, it's impressive to see, and to see the results this year has been awesome.
And another thing too, you talk about on ice, like he does that, the VR training when he's not on the ice, because like he does do it too. Like it's crazy to me. Just like I've always said, and this is what has always been the separation. And this isn't me knocking Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen at all, because I think he's an athletic freak. But I always felt like the separation between Devin and UPL was the next shot mentality. Like you don't let a bad, I've been playing obviously at a mediocre level compared to what we're talking about, but I've played the position my entire life, and it's so important to have a next shot mentality where you don't let a bad goal or a bad game carry over into the next. You get over it. Whereas I think that maybe hamper UPL a little bit, where when faced with adversity, like I'm not going to say it's sink or swim, but like I think he's shown to sink a little bit more than he swam. And that's what I love about Levi is, the mental side of the game. We had Olaf Kolzig, another Rochester alumni. He played there for 1 year, and he said the exact same thing about Devin. Surprisingly, he pays quite a bit of attention to the AHL, and he said, like, you could tell he's one of the most mentally strong goalies in the AHL.
And like I said, this Amerks series could have been very different with Syracuse. They have played each other over the last 3 years 50 times against Syracuse. Like, it's comical the amount of times they played one another. And Syracuse is this big veteran team that just pretty much tried to pound the Amerks into submission. And they were trying to get in front of Devin and all of these things. And Syracuse isn't a high-scoring team, but they allowed the fewest goals in the American Hockey League this year. So there was this mindset of they're playing game one, and all of a sudden they give up kind of a fluky goal. Connor Sheary scores the first one, and then one kind of bounces off Devin's back and goes in. When they scored 2 goals within the first 4 minutes of the second period, and you're kind of thinking like, uh-oh. And Devin talked about, like, and you guys have probably mentioned it, but like there is something to gaining the experience in the American Hockey League, like going through these ups and downs, these challenges. And Devin understands that. Like at the trade deadline, all I was praying for was the Sabres to not mess up what the Amerks had, because they're showing that they can develop. And I know we're getting a little off track here, but like there are very few people I respect and love more in this world than Seth Apper. And maybe what he did this year is not a true testament, but like that guy gets it. He really gets it. And he always talks about like development is one thing, but it's not just sending guys over the bench to get their teeth kicked in. It's doing things the right way and winning. And winning is a product of doing things the right way. And so what the Amerks have built, and you've seen it with Kulik and some of these guys that have come up, like I think Noah Austin's going to be could be a real player. And to see some of these things, and I look at this and I go, man, when they got down 2-0, the team and Devin kind of had this perspective of when we play Syracuse, it's usually the first to 3 wins. So it's like, all right, I've given up 2. They haven't outplayed us. It's just kind of 2 fluky goals. That happens. Oh, well. And Leone talked about that's what he respects most about Devin is like he's a winner and he's a gamer. And he goes, he doesn't know how many shutouts he has. He doesn't care. He goes, if we win 9-7 and Devin makes the saves when we need to, Devin's pumped because like that's all his job is. And like those little things stand out to me. And what they're building in Rochester again is exciting.
I would say the most exciting team probably since the lockout year when you had NHL players, like, you know what I mean? Like that team was a powerhouse too. But the flip side of that is so was everybody else because there was no NHL season. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I could talk about how great Devin Levi is for hours here, but I know Dan's got stuff he's got to get done tonight. But I mean, I did want to mention like how things seem to be now that Yuri Kulik is back in the equation. I mean, obviously he earned himself a spot with the big boy club this year with some pretty impressive play, centering the top line for quite a good stretch there when Tage was probably nursing another hand injury or something to that effect. I think he wasn't totally 100%, but Yuri Kulik stepped up and he didn't really seem out of place. But, as usual, he's one of your top point getters in those first 3 games. Cale Clegg surprisingly leading the charge, and Laval's a little bit similar. Seems like a lot of their veterans are the ones getting the job done, at least on the score sheet. But yeah, how have things been having Yuri back in the mix?
Yuri's awesome. Like I remember sitting down with him when he was 19 years old and was leading the team in scoring, and he's this kid and like. I always think that people think that pro athletes are like robots and they don't have feelings, emotions, or anything like that. And it's like, here's a 19-year-old kid coming to a new country. It's not a new city. It's a new country and a completely different league. Like I remember talking to Chris Taylor when he was here, and it's like, how come some guys, Casey Middlestat, Tage Thompson, some of these guys like have struggled in the American Hockey League and then they play well at times in the NHL when they get sent down. It's just, you expect them to like dominate games like, Connor McDavid. And he's like, it's an uglier game in the American Hockey League. It just is. And if you're somebody that expects your teammates to be at a certain spot because you're at a certain level, your line mate may not be. Like they may be a career AHLer, and that's fine. And so And so to see Yuri develop and to come in as like this scrawny little 19-year-old kid with a shot and like to go through playoffs. And I remember his first playoff was rough. And like teams just kind of took him out and they just bodied him. And like, that's not something that Europeans are used to on a smaller ice and things like that. And to see his like maturity and to see him like fill out and you're like, this is a dude now and he can take a hit and he's gotten so much better in the defensive zone. And we asked him too, like you went from a few weeks ago, like covering, Matthews, and now you're here, and these are all of his friends. Like he knows this is his last run in Rochester. Like I think he gets that, and he's kind of said like, this is my home. This is kind of where I grew up. I became a professional hockey player here in Rochester. So him with Roseanne, it's like I hope everybody finds somebody in life that looks at them the way Yuri Kulik looks at Isak Roseanne and vice versa. Like, and that's just it. And so to see this line, and I remember when Matt Beauvais of WKBW texted me. He saw the tweet before I did when they sent all 4 guys down, because there was rumors we think they're going to be sent down, but you didn't know with juniors and stuff like that, the World Juniors, like what could happen. And Beauvais texted me. He's like, Amerks going to win the cup. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, they sent them all down. And talking to like the Amerks PR, and they're like, yeah, I think, and we'll never know for sure, and they'll say what they want to say in front of the camera, but I think they probably gave Yuri the option of what he wanted to do. And I think he wanted to experience playoff hockey again and play with his buddies. And like, this is big for him. And his production hasn't been there. He just has the 1 goal in the 3 games, but what he does to opposing teams, like it just drains them. So that guys like Cal Clegg and Brendan Warren and these third line guys that were first and second line guys at times for Rochester are now going up against the third pairing. And now you're going up against the third line. So like the Amerks lineup is just so deep. It's comical. And they'll say all the right things in front of the camera. Like, this team is the most talented team on paper in the Calder Cup playoffs. They don't play the games on paper. Like, that's a dumb statement to say, but like all of them interview, when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, we got a really good team and things like that, but we got to do the little things. We got to do this right. We got to go out there. And then when I'd stop recording, I'm like, this team's stacked. And they're like, yeah, we're stacked right now. Like this, like and like seeing their power play where I'm like, there's NHL talent on both units. Like, I thought that was going to be the difference maker in the Syracuse series. Yuri had a huge goal in game 2 right before the end of the second period. That was kind of the game changer. Went from 1-0 to 2-0 right before the break. And that you've seen it. Like, Clegg has waited 7 years to play playoff hockey, and it's showing. He's playing great. So it's been a lot of fun. And like I said, the depth throughout, and when they swept them and they knew that it's a big physical team, and Leone kind of talked about it, was the fact of everybody talks about how skilled we are, and we are. He's like, but we got to be a tough, skilled team. He goes, there were 2 odd man rushes in 3 games in Syracuse. He's like, that's not what playoff hockey is. He goes, watch the Stanley Cup. And he went on this 6-minute soliloquy about how playoff hockey is the purest form. And he goes, it's just dump and chases. There aren't odd man breaks. There's not dangles through the neutral zone. He's like, they dump it in and they hit. He goes, Florida gets in on a 3-on-2 rush. He goes, they dump it and then go hit somebody. It's like, that's awesome. And like, that's the kind of vibe. And they've shown that. And Kulik's been a part of that. So good in the defensive zone here. And like, you need your best players to be best players and step up in big moments. And while it may not be showing up on the stat sheet, Yuri's matured where he knows, like, hey, even if I don't score, I still have to have an impact on this game that may not show up on the stat sheet.
Komarov, obviously he got into that tilt. Was it in game 2 or game 3?
2.
Game 2. I mean, are we looking at a healthy roster coming into this new series? Everybody good to go?
Yeah, the only one is Kozak, but they're thinking that he will no, not Kozak. Rusak, sorry. Rusak, they're hoping that with all the time off, he missed game 3, but he's expected to be back. Komarov is back. He took a nasty punch. Yeah. That was one of those scary ones where you're like, what did I just watch? Like, he's okay, but he's back now. He was at practice this week, so he should be good to go.
I'm looking at the first round stats. Obviously, again, it was only 3 games, but you have a few guys that are noticeable that without points, guys like Oslin and Brett Murray, who really stepped it up this year for Rochester. I was kind of hoping maybe to see a little bit more from the NHL, but he has been a real leader for Rochester this season. And your thoughts on who you'd like to see maybe take another step forward compared to the first round, and who are they going to be leaning on heavily to get through Laval outside of the obvious Devin Levi?
Yeah, I think Roseanne's another guy I'm looking to step up. He really emerged this year too, where I kind of was texting Beauvais being like, I think I like the way he plays. He was another guy that came up 19 years old with Kulik, and you're kind of like, the game just seems a little like he's a little bit intimidated by the physicality of it. And he's gotten better defensively. He's developed into a passer. And then he had a goal or 2, I think, and a nice pass in Buffalo where you're like, and when I talked to him this year, he's like, the next time I get called up, I'm not coming back. And it's like, whoa, like, you're a quiet guy, Rosie. And to say that's pretty big. And he's like, I just am confident. Like, and I remember when he came back at this end of the year, and I was like, it's one thing to say that, but now you have that on your shoulder. Like, you have that badge of like, I wasn't just up in Buffalo for a cup of coffee. Like, I was I was there. Like I was lean, being trusted and leaned on. So he's another guy. He had the empty net goal, I think, in game 2. But I'd like to see a little bit more from him. And Austin is just everywhere. He's like an Energizer bunny. It's like the guy doesn't get tired. I think he's got like 5 shorthanded goals this year. He's great on the penalty kill, like all those kind of things. So like those are the guys, again, you're looking at your best players to step up in big moments. I'm looking at the Kuliks, and this will be a much more skilled series rather than, and that's kind of like before they knew whether they were playing Cleveland or Laval. And we're talking to them after game 3, like, what do you expect the next series and what can you take over? And they're like, it's going to be more skilled, whoever we face. That's not Syracuse's strength. So we will see, I think, a little bit more of an open game with the physicality of obviously just playoff hockey.
Do you kind of give that in terms of just skating ability and just finding ice? You give that advantage to Rochester?
Yeah, I do. And it'll be much closer match talent level. Like the Syracuse's mindset and mentality by the middle of game 2 was just, can we pound the snot out of Rochester till they collapse? And they just weren't talented enough to really do it. And Devin took them mentally out of the game. Like there were a few moments where it's just like passing up open shots where it's like, from my experience, like I said, I played hockey all throughout high school, won a state title. I commented on Fredonia hockey Division 3 when I got there. So like, I'm a student of the game too, kind of. I didn't play beer league now occasionally, but I go, we've all been there where it's like even open shots you're not taking because you're like, this shot's not going to go in. Like Devin can take an offense out mentally like that. So it's going to be leaning on that. And it'll be interesting to see because Laval had like a 10-day layoff. Rochester has, like I said, a 13-day layoff. They're talking about like the first period's going to be a little rusty. There's no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah. But they'll be fresh, but it's just a matter of how quickly can you get back into the hockey endurance and that kind of skill.
I remember seeing something. I can't remember. I saw it that there might even be discussions in the off season about maybe tightening up this playoff schedule a little bit so there isn't this long of a layoff in between rounds, because that is kind of crazy, a 13-day layoff in between rounds.
Well, it's tough because I know Cleveland and Laval had to deal with arena issues with the Cavs. And then Laval also, I think, was dealing with the Canadian series. So, like, there was conflict because, like, the day that the Amerks swept game 3 was game 1 of Laval. And I understand the AHL not wanting to burn so many games on weeknights. And they didn't want to up against Mother's Day because they probably could have played Sunday. So, like, I understand the small business aspects and minor league sports of it. But this is silly. Like, and it was last year when they played Syracuse and it went 3 games. The series went 3 weeks. Like, guys, like, we can't just play every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like, we got to figure it out.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. You have any final thoughts there, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, this definitely will be a higher skill, more finesse series, but a couple of people in that forward core for Laval that I think might drag a little snot into the mix. Alex Barré-Boulet with the crunch forever. I'm sure there's no level loss there. Now that he's playing for a different club, I'm sure he remembers the Amerks very intimately. We got a Jack-Eye sibling in the mix who already has 11 penalty minutes in only 4 games. And funny enough, little Luke Tuck there. That'll be interesting to see. Didn't get to watch him all that much.
And it'll be interesting to see who's between the pipes for Laval, because Primo's been really good over the years for Laval, and I don't think he played games 2 or the last
Fowler's
2
been
games.
Pretty good too.
So he's been the guy. So, and again, we're talking to them like Laval won 6 out of the 8 games in the matchup this season. A lot of them were earlier in the year, and talking to the players, they're like, this is a different team. Like, so to some respects, we'll see how that goes.
Before we let you go, do you have any comments on obviously the big news that came out of Buffalo today? Lou Lamoriello spotted in the airport, broken by our very own Connor Hurley. I mean, I guess you can say that's anybody. It was a funny response. It was, are you kidding me? That looks just like that looks just like any 60 to 70-year-old Polish man in West Seneca's back of his father or grandfather's head. But like, if you zoom in on it, you've seen pictures of Lou. It does kind of look a little bit like it could be him. but this is coming directly from the source. He goes, unless you need pending hair follicle DNA proof. He saw him as he was walking by. This is quick as he get his phone out. That's the best picture he can get. Facial confirmation that it was in fact Lou Lamoriello at the Buffalo Niagara Airport today.
My only, and I this is going to come off snarky, and maybe it should. It seems like they're trying to hire people above and below Kevin Adams. I guess if you think Kevin Adams is the problem that you need to fix, why wouldn't you just get a new GM, and instead you're hiring a hockey ops person or wanting to, and you're bringing in an assistant to the general manager? It just seems minor league to me. If you don't, where is your faith in Kevin Adams if you're trying to put people above and below him? And if take that with whatever level of snarkiness you want, that just seems confusing to me. It's when the owner of any team gives the vote of confidence for their head coach, and then you're like, he's fired in like 2 days. Like, I guess it's just a little bit confusing. I think Lou Lamoriello like knows, and I think you had the tweet, like, knows more about hockey in his pinky than anybody that's in the Sabres organization right now. So I think it's always good to have smart people in an organization. It just is a little bit confusing and kind of like a circus of like, we like Kevin Adams, but we're going to put somebody above him and we're going to give him more help below him. I don't really get it.
Yeah. I think the big thing with him for sure is, I mean, we've heard all the stuff about Terry Pegula, how he is when it comes to the difference between the Bills and the Sabres. I forget who it was that it was an interview about how Terry does truly love hockey more than anything, and he wants us to work so bad, and maybe that's why he's so involved with certain decisions, whether it be financially based or maybe he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. But there is no chance you are going to be in a room with a guy like Lou Lamoriello, you're Terry Pegula, and try and tell Lou Lamoriello that, yeah, this is what I think we should do. I don't think, like, no, you're not. That's Lou Lamoriello. He's like somebody at commentary. He's old as dirt. He's got more hockey clout in his pinky finger than you have your entire body, your entire lifetime. I don't think Lou takes this job knowing that he's going to have to answer for everything. Correct. You know what I mean? So maybe this is a move they're making because this is a guy that can get through to Terry and get in his ear maybe more so, since obviously we saw one with Pat LaFontaine, but like, how are you going to tell Lou Lamoriello how to run a hockey franchise? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like if Lou comes in and at his age, like, he's not doing this to be a yes man or answer to anybody.
Exactly.
He's doing it to run the show and to try and get the ship pointed in the right direction.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. I will say that doesn't look like an overnight bag. That just looks like a little bit of a briefcase.
Yeah, another thing.
I think I might just be having a chat. I don't want to get too. I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. You know.
Sure. And another thing too, I have enjoyed the memes that have come out of that. People remove the background of Lou and just have him walking in different places. Always good for a good Duffs.
Walking into Duffs. Somebody asked the waiter if he ordered ranch or blue cheese with the wings.
Can someone send us a picture of the receipt, please? Can we confirm that he was there? Dan, thanks for hopping on with us, man. Maybe we can grab you again if Rochester gets past Laval. It'd be awesome.
Would love to, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. That was Dan Fetes with 13 Wham Sports out of Rochester. Always a pleasure. That is Lou Lamoriello still on the screen, but I'm gonna play right. It's crazy, right, Steve? Like, you see, you saw the reports last week of both Ken Holland and Lou Lamoriello both not having any interest in this job. I forget who reported that initially.
Probably Elliot Friedman.
It might have been Elliot Friedman. If somebody in the chat knows, by chance, let us know. But if this is in fact true, it kind of contradicts that story. But I do truly believe that, like, what other better names were available? Like Rob Blake. Yeah, I'd like to see Rob Blake, but is he realistically gonna fly back and forth between his home and I think he has some mention. I think on After the List they mentioned he has like a home in San Jose. Is he realistically gonna do that from there? Or is Dave from the Dave Pagnotta from the fourth period, who's always hit and miss. So he could have been wrong. But, I mean, Rob Blake, is he going to fly back and forth across country to be a senior advisor for the Buffalo Sabres? Or is he going to try and stay closer to home on the West Coast? You know, I mean, I'd love to have Rob Blake, don't get me wrong. And there's other names too. One of them, like, you know, Bruce Boudreau would have been a cool hire because that guy, again, has been in hockey forever and has a lot of clout. And how is a guy like Terry? And he's just a lovable guy too. Big wrestling fan, which I'm always about.
Yeah.
Other names too off the top of my head, just, you know, Rick Dudley, who has a house here in Lewiston, would be like the ideal hire. But again, is a guy like Terry Pagula, is he going to step away from his position with Florida to come do this? I think it'd be a good chance to rebuild the team he played for growing up. But I don't know, man. I mean, maybe Lou Lamoriello is the best option. It's just trying something different.
Yeah, I mean, getting somebody with that much NHL experience would definitely be something different for this front office. That's for sure. But I do agree with what Dan was saying. I think this, you know, and I'm not saying that there's something wrong with having, you know, like a president of hockey ops along with the general manager, but it kind of feels like they're building more of a tribunal, just kind of like a big collective of people to essentially shelter Kevin Adams from his own bad decisions, or if bad decisions are made, like, well, it's not all on Kevin. You know, we made these decisions by committee, and we decided to draft this guy instead of trade the pick for somebody. You know, it's not my fault. Just give me another chance, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people a couple months back put on a tinfoil hat, and of all of the NHL teams in the world, in the league, Jarmo Kekalainen only follows the Blue Jackets in Buffalo. And I think that, you know, I think Jarmo, just given his history with the kinds of teams that he's helped in his career, I think he would have some sort of kinship with a team like Buffalo where it's like, you know, there's something there. You know that there's potential. You know that, you know, the on-ice product, these players can do it, but they need help. They need structure. They need, you know, they need they need to get the pieces in place to, you know, do it right. You know, that would be my first. That seems like a choice that would make sense. I mean, Dudley, obviously, given I didn't realize he was just right up the street there in Lewiston. But if he is right up the street there, well, then there you go.
I think he celebrated with the cup here in Lewiston at one of his favorite bar spots. Again, I had a guy that used to drink at the same bar that Rick Dudley drank at in the offseason. I remember he actually DM'd me and said that before the trade happened, or the deal happened with Brandon Montour going to Florida, that like he told me like 2 months beforehand that Dudley really wanted Montour in Florida, and then it eventually happened. So and that obviously worked out well for them. He went from a third pairing here in Buffalo, sometimes even playing on the wing, to winning a Stanley Cup, being a very reliable defenseman for Rochester. I'm sorry. Florida, and winning a Stanley Cup. So,
and then he got a big paycheck in Seattle. So good for him.
Yep, very big paycheck in Seattle. And every penny earned too. I mean, again, you mentioned Jarmo Kekalainen. That'd be awesome. Apparently he followed me at some point, and then he unfollowed me. Someone literally DM'd me and said, "Hey, I noticed this guy follows you. Is it true that he's following all these?" Like, I didn't notice that he followed me. Apparently he did at some point. I know he followed a couple other Sabres, like, you know, content creators too. But James, welcome to the team, James. The Griffin in Lewiston is the bar. Unbelievable duck wings, by the way, at Griffin's Gastro Pub. Shout out to them.
I'll have to take
no, dude, like it's true though. Like he does have those ties here to Buffalo. It would be awesome to maybe see a reunion, everything come full circle. Maybe he's the guy that fixes this disaster in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we got to take inexperience out of the equation and put more experience into the equation. You know, Eric Stahl's a very small piece of that puzzle. You know, maybe he does have some connections with current players that might be able to convince somebody in free agency that, like, no, this won't be a complete train wreck for your career. No, this won't stop you dead in your tracks. No, they're not going to send you down to the Amerks when everything goes tits up by December. I promise it'll be different this time. Don't look at my year in Buffalo, though. That's a bad example. Things are real bad then. You know, don't look at that. Don't just nobody look. But yeah, I mean, And I think that part of the lead getting buried in all this was that, our buddy Seth Appert might be getting a little bit more front office responsibility and a little more front office sway.
The hiring of Eric Stahl.
And there's still a little bit of uncertainty as to whether Karmanos is going to continue to be, a fixture in the scouting department. And I think, obviously not every single pick is hit, but like some, like the foresight to pick up guys like, JJ Peterka in the second round, that's a stroke of fucking genius that, I'm amazed that he even made it to the second round at this point. But again, he's got shy of 30 years of NHL experience. Like, you can't let people,
Dude.
and that's the ultimate point here. Like, at a certain point, I don't care who it is, but it has to be somebody who knows what they're doing, somebody who's walked the walk and talked the talk before. Whether it is old as dirt Lou Lamoriello who forces Alex Chuck to shave his beard, I won't love it, but I won't hate it. But it's got to be somebody who's been there, done that. Ideally, maybe somebody who's actually won something in this league. That'd be great. But yeah, again, if we got to build a tribunal around Kevin Adams just to make this shit work,
almost like babysitters.
Yeah, pretty much.
Almost like babysitting the guy. I'm looking at his elite prospects page where it just got obviously his coaching career. He started coaching college hockey for Providence College in the 68-69 season. He made his debut. Yeah. So he didn't make it to the NHL into the 86-87 season. We became the president of the New Jersey Devils, was president of them until, oh my God. He was president, GM, CEO of New Jersey from what did I say? 86, 87. Yeah. 86, 87 when that all happened. And then he was with New Jersey until Jesus, my goodness. 86, 87 until God, this list is endless. Hold on. He left in 2014, 2015, had a cup of coffee for a few seasons, for 3 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs as their general manager. And then from 2018, 2019 till last season, he was the president of hockey operations and general manager of the New York Islanders. And I believe he even served as head coach, GM head coach for the Devils for a season or two back in the mid 2000s. So this guy has literally done every job, front office job and bench job that you can ask of a guy in the NHL.
Yeah, there is truly no one who knows more about running a club from every conceivable angle.
Yeah.
But again, the criticisms are warranted. Has the game passed him by? Does he have too much of an old school mentality? Are the players that he values not really, congruent with the trajectory of the league as it is? And some of the most recent draft picks they've had, granted, they've traded the lion's share of their first round picks up until the last couple of years, playoff contenders. So they haven't had, the best pick of the litter. I think their last big first round hit was Noah Dobson, and that was 2017, 2018, something like that. And no one's going to knock Noah Dobson. If anything, he's going to get offer sheeted to King's ransom, just try to get him off the island. But yeah,
we did get a like. We did get a like on tonight's episode by Rochester Americans head coach Mike Leone.
Right on.
Right on.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, Mikey. Get it the fuck out.
So shout out to you, Mike, if you're watching right now. We've noticed the love. Love what you've done with our Amerks this season. It's been fantastic.
It's cool.
Been fun to watch. I hope to be at a couple games in the second round, barring this issue with my leg. But yeah, thanks for the love, bud. And what Dan was talking about too. I'm gonna play the video. Hopefully, I don't get copyrighted for this, but I'm gonna play the video that they were talking about from that.
The Amerks have been wearing shirts
There we go.
with just 5 letters on them.
It's kind of been like the motto.
Get it the fuck out. I'm pretty positive that's what
what
it
do those
is.
5
Get it
letters
the
stand
fuck
for?
out.
Yeah, I can't say it. There's a swear word in there.
Yeah, the motto is something first-year head coach Mike Leone brought to the team.
I'm not going to get into the details of it.
Right. So it's kind of like Fight Club.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Jokes aside, Leone's slogan has become the Amerks identity.
What kind of player and what kind of person it takes to be the phrase, and I just used it ever since.
And the players have embraced it.
It gives us that little bit extra juice and something to think about when times get tough.
It just means be a gamer and just go and get the job done. You can't teach that. That comes from inside, and it's just buy-in from the group.
And while it's Leone's slogan, he says they're not his shirts. They're the shirts the players wanted.
They wear it proudly. There's meaning behind it, and I think the guys have really bought into it.
All right, but come on, seriously, what does it stand for?
I've seen some comments on the internet, and I haven't seen one person get it right yet. So
let's get it the fuck out.
Keep guessing.
Yeah, and on the right sleeve of all of those T-shirts and hoodies, you'll see the number 96. But every player has it. That's because it's not for their jersey number. It stands for 1996, which was the last time the Amerks won the Calder Cup. Reporting with the Amerks at the Blue Cross Arena, Dan Fetes, 13 Wham Sport.
Yeah, that 96, actually, another former friend of the program, Steve Shields, was on that team. I believe Baran might have been on that team, too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so that team, let's go. Like, I definitely want to get there for a game, maybe two, just to enjoy, a winning product that's a representative of Buffalo would be fantastic.
Yeah, that Paterka jersey's collected dust in my closet. I got to get it back out there in the fun in the sun.
That's true. That is very true.
Very true.
So moving away from obviously Lou Lamoriello, again, shout out to Connor Hurley, our co-host, for getting that information from us from somebody who was at the airport, saw Lou Lamoriello, and by the time he was able to take said picture, he had already was walking by, and I think it'll be kind of weird to run in front of him. It's like, hey, Lou, let me get a picture.
Yeah, the Buffalo Airport's, for those who aren't aware, the Buffalo Airport's pretty small. It's kind of hard to covertly take a picture of something.
Yeah. So
Lou, could I get your picture? No, fuck off.
I hope this isn't a quick decision made by the Sabres, just because we saw how quickly it happened with Lindy. I hope there is a legitimate interview process in all of this. You know what I mean? An actual, let's not just take the first guy that shows interest. Let's, while you have the time, while the playoffs are still going on, just take your time with it. Bring in, Rob Blake if he's willing to come and have a conversation. Bring in a Kekalainen. Bring in, a Bruce Boudreau. Just some off the wall names even. You see who interviews well, and see. I guess Terry has to be the one that makes the final decision, but somebody that Terry will listen to, and just not think that he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, I mean, that respect has to be a two-way street there. I mean, obviously, Terry's got to respect whoever becomes a senior advisor, and the senior advisor has to have some level of respect for the guy who's writing his paycheck. But not so much respect that he's going to, we want somebody with strong opinions informed by experience. So we don't want somebody who's just going to, tell Terry whatever he wants to hear, because I think that's what's been happening for the last decade and change, and that's what needs to stop immediately. Somebody just needs, look, man, that's just not how you build a winner. We've been trying it your way. I'm here because you want to try something different. So trust me, that's what we're trying to do here. So let's get it done. More. So yeah, it seems like the senior advisor is more of somebody for Terry to learn from, and then Eric Stahl is somebody for Kevin to just go, it's just so fucking hard, man. It's like Eric's like, yeah, I know, dude. That's why I'm not a GM. It's fucking hard.
Yeah, right.
every choice you make is gonna get fucking put under a fucking microscope. And somehow, even if you make the best draft pick possible, it's still not going to be the best choice. Somebody's going to find something wrong with it. Draft cool. Somebody will be like, oh yeah, draft Connor McDavid's clone. It's like, oh great, it's just another skill finesse player. Where are we gonna get a fucking big stay-at-home defenseman that can actually lock it down in the playoffs? Defense wins championships. It's like, cool, you're mad about getting one of the greatest hockey players of all time. Like,
yeah.
No matter what.
Listen, I don't think they're gonna turn this. If it's Lou Lamoriello, I don't think he's gonna turn the Sabres into what we saw with the Devils for so many years, or the boring stuff, because you just don't have those players. The core group with this team isn't built for that brand of hockey. But at least maybe defensively, that's where we need help, is in the defensive zone, and turning these players into more forwards and more responsible in their own end. And then obviously maybe getting guys like Matthias Samuelsson, if he's still on this team next year, or Owen Power, to buy into playing a more physical brand of hockey and not just being, and again, we saw steps forward in Owen Power's game, in the back half of the season. I mean, the full back second half of the season, but definitely he was taking steps in the right direction. Hopefully he takes that step defensively that we saw Dahlin take, where he did get a little more sandpaper in his game. And I get it. That was never his game coming before he came to the NHL. He was never that guy in Michigan. Never had to be. That team was loaded. They always had the puck. So he never had to be that guy. But maybe with Lou's guidance, and I don't know, maybe he helps bring in more people, like almost like a kind of like when you have the connections a guy like Lou Lamoriello has, maybe he's willing to get other guys, good, respectable hockey heads, into the Sabres organization.
Yeah, this could be that Wolf of Wall Street situation where Leo DiCaprio is starting to sell penny stocks. It's like, look, buddy, with 10 cents on the dollar, you're going to fucking return your investment. So you want to lock that in at $4,000, huh? Like that. Like that's the kind of guy you're bringing into a room where it's like right now we're just selling penny stocks. It's like he's going to convince other people that this is like the next hot thing, and like you'd be a fucking idiot to pass up, a year or two of free agency with this team, because they're building something. And I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, some of the, Jason Zucker made the deliberate choice to stick around. So, I mean, there's something to be said that like we're getting some veterans that actually want to stick around, that are actually contributing. We're, took us a very long time, but we're starting to try to target the right people. Like Ryan McLeod was a fucking godsend on that third line. He was pretty much a perfect player. He's a fucking Swiss Army knife. He can do anything you ask him to do, and he's going to do it better than most players. Is he elite? No, but he's just fucking great at everything. And you want a Ryan McLeod on every single line. You want a guy who can literally just do whatever the situation calls for. And it is nice. Again, it's taken us a tremendous amount of time to start making some of these, correct decisions. And with every one of these choices, we also give multiple years of term to guys like Sam Lafferty and Beck Malenstein.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Aube-Kubel only had 1 year, but he's already not here. But yeah. So, and yeah, for every good move we make, like the McLeod for Savoy trade, there's a trade a second round pick for Beck Malenstein in Kevin's back pocket. So win some, lose some. I'm never going to forgive him for that, because now we can't make a big offer sheet splash this summer unless Washington wants to generously give us our second round pick back, which I doubt they will.
Yeah. We're going to go into NHL playoffs right now. The Jets and the Stars are tied at 1, about getting them there midway into the second period. Granlund scoring for the Stars and Nikolai Ehlers for the Jets earlier today, or still going on right now, maybe. Let's see here. Toronto, do they play today?
Nope, they are off till tomorrow. This is the only game on tonight. Yeah. But notably, Robertson and Heiskanen are
Miro Heiskanen making his playoff debut, but
making his triumphant return here.
Yeah. What was the injury with him again?
I'm not totally sure, but it was something that had him knocked out for a minute.
Yeah, he was on long-term injury reserve. So
yeah, he was out for a good long while. But
he was a guy he was a guy that needed to be on long-term injury reserve, unlike some other players that they've used loopholes that rule.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, Nick God, I said Nick Robertson. Jason Robertson. Got an assist on the grand goal earlier, so he's already making an impact on the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the power play as well. Looks like Dallas's power play is just winding down here, unfortunately for them. Jets are wildly out shooting them in this game, which is
Ottinger's playing on his head, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, and thankfully they got a guy who can do something like that, because you kind of need them to. Oh, there's Heiskanen. Yeah, he's looking good.
Heiskanen
and Robertson. Heiskanen and Robertson. They're dialed in.
Well, they needed Heiskanen to possibly put them over the top in this series, because it's nice to see Hellebuck kind of get back to form in the last series, but obviously still looks a little shaky from time to time. Miro Heiskanen on the back end there, and then Robertson, that might put Dallas over the top in this series.
Yeah. And also, a couple clicks for Stu Skinner getting the shutout last night. So, I mean, that's a guy who's been
I'm rooting for Edmonton out of the West, man. I really am. McDavid's got one cup.
Oh, yeah. No, I want a rematch of last year, and I want Edmonton to pull ahead. Although the best heartbreak of all time would be Toronto miraculously making it to the Stanley Cup 2, then losing 7.
Dude, they're making it interesting, up 2-0 in that series, and they blow it. And they blew it. Did they blow it at home? Did they have the 2-0 series at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is a series where no one has lost at home yet. No, Toronto. I believe it started in Toronto.
Oh, it did start in Toronto. Okay.
Yeah,
so I thought so.
This is one of those no one's lost at home yet, and that's when they say.
And Austin Matthews has been horrendous. Mitch Marner has like 3 shots on goal this series or whatever. I don't know. I saw something, or like I forget Marner's point output if there has been one in the second round, but their stars are essentially disappearing so far in the second round.
I mean, with the exception of Willie Nylander,
who was consistent last year too.
Yeah, Willie's a fucking stud.
Yeah.
So their offseason is going to be fucking historic, because depending on what happens in this postseason, like either Marner's testing free agency or Toronto's backing up the money truck and building a bronze statue of him, in the plaza of their rink.
There's just no way they're going to be able to afford Tavares, Matthew Nyes, and what Marner is going to command in free agency. There's just no chance. No way.
No. I mean, if they were smart, and no disrespect to John Tavares, but if you're a smart team, you let John Tavares test free agency.
Yeah.
And then you give money to Marner and Nyes. And you can find another reliable center. May not be as good as John Tavares, but if they're centering, what's the second line right now? Is it like Willie Nylander on one side? And God, I don't even remember who plays on the other wing on that one.
Yeah.
With Tavares. But if Willie Nylander is one of your wingmates, you can have a fucking traffic cone with a hockey helmet taped to it. That center's gonna be just fine. You could strap a bag of dog turds to Dahlin's hip, and that dog turd is gonna put up at least 20 assists every season.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not concerned with whoever Dahlin's future partner might be next year.
I'm looking at whether it's Bowen Byram or, I know there's a lot of, we kind of mentioned in the chat earlier today that there's just a lot of hate on Bowen Byram and what he brings to the team, and that he's just a Dahlin merchant. Listen, if he's willing to sign for, I don't know what the price of the market. I mean, I can't see him wanting anything less than Owen Power. And if you look at their numbers, man, he should be asking for that much. He should be. If you're going to pay Owen Power that much, I mean, his plus minus compared to, again, obviously that's a very, misleading stat, but it's kind of glaring the difference between the two players. And mind you, Bowen Byram got little to no power play time this last season.
That's also true. And one of the biggest knocks on him has been his injury history, and he did play 82 games.
82 games.
So, I mean, I think that definitely raises the price, whether it's free agency or here. But, I think Chychrun contracts kind of push things closer to 9, and I'm that's a little bit too rich for my blood, personally. I think he's great. If we can get him like close to that Tage money, that'd be fantastic.
I would take him at 7.5 if he's willing to do it.
Yeah. If they're
even at 7.5 for 3 years.
If there's any smoke to those after the whistle reports that his house is completely empty and he's just not in the area with every thought in his mind that he will not be a Buffalo Sabre next year, then it's kind of a pointless conversation. If he's like, I'm not going to sign whatever contract you put in front of me, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm testing free agency, have a nice day. And if that's I get it, no hard feelings. You wouldn't be the first, you won't be the last.
And we mentioned in our chat too, like Bowen Byram is as good, if not better, than Power in transition. Moving the puck up the ice, he's faster. And there's no questioning that Byram's more physical defenseman, but Owen Power's ceiling is higher than what Bowen Byram is. And I think that's the decision you're probably basing everything off of. Can you afford to have 3 left-handed puck-moving defensemen, like Big Fungus brings up here? Can you get them under $30 million? With the cap going up, are you comfortable paying, Bowen Byram possibly the Owen Power contract if you genuinely do want to keep him here? Where you could also spend that money in free agency, hopefully on a guy like Aaron Ekblad. I know, but he definitely would, as a right-handed defenseman, bring a brand of hockey to the blue line that we do not currently have.
Yeah. Bowen Byram, I guess that's a question of what's more important, higher floor or a higher ceiling. And, with a team like this, sometimes the floor is a trap door that you fall into and break your ankle. So, that's definitely some cause for concern.
Yeah.
Obviously we have Dahlin and Owen Power locked up long term. We don't got to worry about that for 5, 6, and I think one of them 7 years from now. We're good there. What they do with Samuelsson is a big question. Do they still have faith in him? Because if you were going to think the buyout word, this is the summer to do it.
It is.
Because I think it only hits. It's for a very long time, but it's entry level contract money for a very long time. And ideally, you're a team that you don't need to worry about having room for one more kid on the ELC to make space for in your cap equation, especially as things go on the rise. Again, I personally want to see Dahlin back on his left side, just because it's easier to play good defense when you don't have to constantly be repositioning your body to catch a pass. Like I saw that constantly, where like he would kind of like turn around and like catch it backhand, so that way he'd be like, and it was like he'd like have to do all this fucking shit. Yeah. And there were a couple times where like teams like the Canes or something were like, they really love putting pressure on that guy on the blue line, because he has to do that extra work of switching from his offhand to his forehand, that they'll be able to strip him and potentially like start a little 2-on-1, and then he's, he's got to get on his horse and try to keep a disaster from happening while they're on the power play, which then just fuels the fire of our special teams are fucking heinous. Anything that you can do to not potentially, I'm not going to say handicap them, but definitely hinder in some way, I would be in favor of. So that said, again, literally just about anybody who plays defense and shoots right-handed, it could be anybody. I have no concern with who they pair with Rasmus Dahlin. Dahlin will carry the freight. It will be fine. If that's like a third liner from somebody else's team, I don't know. Maybe you try to throw an offer sheet at one of those 2 right-handed defensemen in New Jersey that might not have a path forward, whether it be Simone Nemeth or Seamus Casey. Because they're not going to be able to sign.
We don't have a second round pick, so we'd have to reacquire our second round pick from.
The second round pick is for anything $7 million or above, but these guys are still on ELCs. Yeah, but you could just try to make a trade for one of those guys and give them some. Yeah, give them some like.
But
I don't have a path forward. Yeah, but like
that's also one of the mind-numbing things that Kevin Adams did in that deal. Is like, why did we have to include our second round pick in that deal, which kind of handcuffs us if we did, in fact, especially when you're bringing in guys to be advisors like Eric Stahl and, maybe Lou Lamoriello, who you were before the draft, like, hey, the thought of offer sheeting, fill in the blank came up. Well, guess what? Unless we can reacquire our second round pick that we probably should have had to throw into the deal for Josh Norris, unless we can reacquire that pick, we can't make that happen.
All right. Well, Captain Ahab here seems to think that perhaps Vsevolov Komarov or Novikov might be our right-handed D solution.
I don't know about that being next year. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'd like to see what they do with Ryan.
He's saying in a couple years.
On a couple years. I'd like to see what Ryan Johnson. Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, if Samuelson's out of the equation come this summer, then Ryan Johnson slotting into that third pair on your left side is an absolute
for a much cheaper number.
Absolute no-brainer, and you know that he's defensively responsible.
Yeah,
he got his first goal like in professional hockey. Yeah, in professional hockey, like a couple months ago, and he's been playing for almost 2 full seasons with Rochester. Yeah, he's defensive defenseman to a T, but he's also quite good in transition, which is obviously something that you need to be on a high transition team like this one. Yep. With a very, aggressive, offensive play style. A little risky, but he can get it out of the zone real quick. He's definitely refined that in Rochester. And again, as Dan was saying, it's a sloppier game, it's a messier game. Where you think somebody ought to be is usually not where they are, but Ryan Johnson still seems to find them wherever they might actually be, and that's important. But yeah.
Of course. So, not to get too sidetracked away from the playoffs, Matthews has, and this is pretty glaring, in this series, he only has 3 points. He hasn't scored a single goal. Marner, who's mainly the setup guy, I think he is a point-per-game player in the Florida series. But again, these guys, they're not playing to their contracts. They're not playing. Marner's not playing like he wants to be a $15 million man right now. And hopefully, I'm not by any means, I'm not a Toronto supporter. I love to see them crash and burn, especially with the players that could be available this offseason that might be making their decisions based on how this playoff run goes. But like Marner, for instance, in his last 4 games, he's got 4 points. Yeah, but only 1 goal. I know he's more known to be a setup guy for Matthews on that line, but 4 points from Marner isn't good enough. 3 points from Matthews isn't good enough. They're both point-per-game players. Matthews with 10 points in 10 games, but only 2 goals in those 10 games. And Marner with 2 goals and 10 assists. Again, 4 goals between your 2 of your most talented players. And then guys, like you said, Billy Nylander kind of leading the way offensively for the Maple Leafs. It hasn't been good enough. And they're just kind of falling back into that possible narrative that when push comes to shove, they just can't get over that hump.
Yeah, that's been Steve Dangle's talking point on just about every LFR is that you're running out of chances to prove to people that you are not exactly what they say you are.
Yeah.
Which is just choke artists. You can't be counted on when the chips are down. When you need it most, you crumble. You don't bend, you break. And obviously you can't build a cup contender with players like that. So yeah, I mean, it is nice to see that Nyes has also been picking up a lot of the slack there. Again, I'm definitely a Leaf hater, but on an individual level, I like seeing Matthew Nyes thrive. He's a very even-handed player. I think his numbers this year are like almost like 1-for-1 for goals and assists, like the same amount that he scores, the same amount he sets up. Mm-hmm. So it's not, which is kind of surprising. Usually it's lopsided one way or the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, his offensive game seems to be pretty balanced. Yeah, that's going to be tomorrow night's going to be a bloodbath a bit. Matt Tkachuk chirping everybody on the bench. You're going to get it. I'm going to get you. Wink at him, gesture with the elbow. Yeah, it's been a real chippy postseason. Like there have been a lot of, and not just that series, like collectively, there's been a lot of questionable stuff going on as far as like extracurriculars. Like Aiden Hill got bodied a couple times last night, and like one arm threw Hyden down to the ground, tried to kill Evander Kane on that second goal. Like, and for the most part, the refs are swallowing the whistles on a lot of it. They're just letting it go, which, you know, for the most part, it's fine. But there are definitely been some instances this year where it's this postseason where it's clearly someone's crossed the line, and I don't think. Ooh, that was a nice goal, Rupe Hintz.
Yeah,
that was fucking nasty. My stream's probably behind, but that was filthy. That was nice. Sorry, lost my train of thought. But yeah, I don't really think there's been a lot in the way of like supplemental discipline at all. Like, correct me if I'm like, I think somebody might have gotten a game for like a big headshot or like a big boarding thing.
There's been a lot of flying elbows in that series, man, between, you know, what happened with Bennett on Stolars, who still hasn't made his way back to the net. You saw what happened on Kulikov to Marner, who literally tried to murder Mitch Marner with an elbow. Just been a lot of dirty play. I guess he said you have Kachuk threatening William Nylander, which is monster. I mean, unless it's like an intimidation thing, it'd be stupid to try that shit in Game 5 when it's a tied series. You know, trying to give any momentum back to the Leafs.
Yeah, but I mean, the Panthers are really good, specifically Kachuk. They're really good at dragging teams down to their level to do that kind of shit, to take that instigator penalty. Just, you know, there's a lot of punchable faces on that team, and I think they know it. I don't know. I think they just got the right smile and the twinkle in their eye that just says, "Just do it. Come on. I know you want to. Come on.
Yeah.
Drop the gloves and take a swing. Come on, buddy." But so we'll see if Toronto can keep their discipline. We'll see if you know, maybe somebody stops swallowing their whistles. And but yeah, awful lot of $5,000 fines for all these millionaires. I'm sure they're you know,
it was
crying as they.
I don't know if you remember that one time when it was a regular season game when the Sabres were playing the Capitals. This is back when we still had Briere, and Ovechkin buried Briere from behind, and it was like when the door to the bench was opening, and he went headfirst into that opening between the boards and the door, and he just laid there life. I legitimately thought Briere was dead, and then it was a blatant. Ovechkin went out of his way, like Briere was just going to the bench, and he just like literally took his eye away from the puck, turned, and just went right to the back of Briere. $1,500 fine. $1,500. Probably laughed as he was writing that check.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Oh, a $1,500 fine to a millionaire like that is like your cashier at Wegmans going, "Hey, would you like to donate $1 to the charity?" Yeah, sure, why not? Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, we know that George Peros doesn't run the tightest ship in the Department of Player Safety, but at least it's unilaterally no one is getting any supplemental discipline. It's not like one team is getting targeted, one guy is getting targeted. No one's getting any love. You know, it's open season. Protect your neck. Keep your head on a swivel. You know, thank God the Rangers aren't in the postseason, because Matt Rempe probably would have put somebody in a casket by now because he can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So. Any final thoughts here, Steve? Obviously, Washington down in that series to Carolina 3-1. Tom Wilson making fun of the storm surge while they're losing that game at the time, and then going down in that series 3-1. Not a great look for Washington. They haven't looked good in that series at all. Not a single guy on that team has looked good.
No, I think the thing that could have helped Montreal, like, Montreal is a very fast team. They're a very young team, but because they're such a young team, they don't have that same level of discipline, focus in the postseason like the Capitals have, like the Canes have, like some of these other teams who have been there multiple times in very recent memory. So I thought that the Canadians might have had a little bit of a chance just to maybe like outrace these older players on the Capitals, just not to say that any one of them are just, you know, completely washed, just or anything to that effect. It's just these are younger guys. They got more gas in the tank. They got motors that can run a little bit longer just by virtue of being 23 instead of 33. You know, like you put a decade on a body, it's going to move a little bit slower. But I think that same argument for the Canes. Not only do they have the speed to completely outrun the Capitals, but they also have a very punishing system that every single one of those players is committed to. That is very hard to play against. Like, they are just so fucking obnoxious specifically in the neutral zone. Like in their D zone too, but like the neutral zone, like you just can't get anything going, and it's grating, it's frustrating. It just makes you want to just fucking feed someone your stick, because you're just like, can you just fuck off? Can you just be somewhere else for a millisecond? I want to throw you into the fucking crowd. Get away from me, Svechnikov. Get away from me, Chatfield. Get away from me, Aho, you little fuck. I hate you. Go away. It's so fucking annoying, dude.
They play that Hurricane brand of hockey that really slows you down. So
it's just taxing, and I just don't think the Capitals have like the endurance to deal with it.
No.
And I think at this point mentally, it's like I think they've resigned themselves, like that Wilson stuff. I think that's like a little bit of like symbolic resignment to like I don't think we're coming out of this series. Like same with the Devils. Like I think the Devils, just because they didn't have, you know, their leading goal scorer, like their best forward. Then Luke Hughes goes out in that first game too. Like it's like we don't even have a complete squad. This whole postseason for us has an asterisk on it before it even fucking starts. Like I think even before game one started, I think they knew this wasn't going anywhere, and that's fine. You know, wait till you get your full squad, recollect. You know, they're a young team. Their window is going to be open for a while. I'm not worried about that for New Jersey, but I think I don't want to say it's a lock, but I'm pretty confident. I'd put a decent chunk of money that the Canes will be in the Eastern Conference Final. The question is, who are they going to be there against? It would be very interesting to see if it's Florida. Obviously, we know they can withstand the Hurricanes. They've done it. They'll do it again. But if miraculously it is Toronto, that would be a very interesting series to watch. Because it would be interesting to see how Toronto is able to generate offense against that disciplined of a team with that just laser focused of a system. And again, I don't like that system. I find it incredibly annoying. I would probably find it annoying to watch if I were a fan of the team. It's not quite, Islanders, all defense, no shots, level of frustrating. But it's definitely frustrating. Those are my final thoughts. The Eastern Conference Finals are going to be very unique regardless of who it is, but I think, the Hurricanes are definitely part of that equation.
Yeah. Apparently we're getting some hate on Twitter right now. This is sent in our chat. The Sabres Lou nonsense is reason enough. You should follow true professionals like Lance Lasowski and our friend Mike Harrington. True, you should follow those guys for reliable reporting. Opinions are one thing, facts are another. First off, we never reported anything that he was going to be the next senior hockey advisor. We just received a picture from somebody who made visual confirmation of Lou Lamoriello in the Buffalo Niagara Airport, the same airport where currently resides in Buffalo, where a team is currently interviewing for a position for senior hockey advisor or senior advisor, however you want to say it. So we didn't report anything. We just literally we just got a picture of Lou Lamoriello in the airport and we shared it.
He's in town.
He's in town. It looks like he's in town. Could it have been a transfer? Sure. But how many layovers happen in Buffalo?
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So,
Not a lot.
Most people probably drive to Toronto instead of friggin' from Buffalo in comparison to flying there. So
or you just get a flight straight from Toronto. I mean, where does Lou? Do we know where Lou lives in his regular?
Yeah.
Does he live in the city on the island, or does he live elsewhere? But you can probably get a direct flight to Toronto regardless of where you're flying out of. You don't have to stop at fucking
Listen,
Buffalo.
we don't report things. We're not reporting that anybody is interviewing for a job here. He was just here. We received a picture, and I trust in Connor. Like, I put a ton of faith in that guy. I mean, he's not going to send out a tweet like that the way he did unless he is positive from his source at the airport that was, in fact, Lou Lamoriello. And you don't want to know what? Nobody has shut it down yet. Somebody wants to shut it down, then they can, and we'll eat crow. But nobody shut us down.
All we're saying is the guy is in the area. There's, you can speculate what reasons he might be here for. Maybe he just wants to go fucking tubing. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe he does just want to go to Duff's. Maybe it's not that deep. We don't know. But it's just a weird coincidence that a hockey team's looking for a senior advisor and somebody who's run a team in almost every single conceivable aspect that a team could be run just so happens to be in that town. That's interesting. That's noteworthy. Hence the tweet. If you want to project anything beyond that we're fully endorsing that Lou Lamoriello is going to be the future senior, we're not saying anything of the sort. We're just making note. Hey, this guy's not usually in Buffalo. That's interesting. So that's it. It's like there's playoff hockey to watch. Like, calm the fuck down.
We posted a picture of him at the airport, and literally, like, again, I trust Connor to have enough sense to make sure that visually from his source that was in fact Lou Lamoriello. And again, his words, these are his words, not mine. Let me see here. I said, your buddy is positive it's him, like absolutely positive. He goes, I mean, pending a hair DNA sample, as positive as a hockey fan can be.
Yeah, I mean, Lou's got a distinct look. Again, you've seen the guy's face for about 40 years. You should know what Lou Lamoriello looks like.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So it is what it is. I'm all out of stuff to talk about. I don't know about you, Steve, but thanks for filling in tonight.
Of course. Happy to help.
Thank you to Dan Fetes from 13 Wham Sports in Rochester for joining us. Getting a little Rochester Laval preview, which goes game 1 tomorrow night. Is it in Rochester? I think it's in Rochester.
It is at the Blue Cross Arena. I saw a ticket count. Looks like about 5,000 of like the 8,000, 9,000 have been sold. So there's still seats if you're in the area. Tickets are still available. Full house, so. It'll probably be Friday is almost certainly a full house. I think they've already sold like 7,000 of their seats. So if you're trying to get out there from Buffalo Friday after work, I would not hesitate to pick up a ticket sooner than later. Call up a friend, see if they got a spare. Mm-hmm. Don't be left out of the fun. Me, I've got a Flow Hockey account, so I can watch from the comfort of my couch. So that's going to be fantastic. But yeah, it's going to be a hell of a series. Devin Levi is going to do something incredible. Yuri Kulik's going to light it up. And I agree that I hope Noah Ostlund, I hope Izak Roseyan, I hope those guys, start to pick up the pace a little bit. A couple clicks for Ostlund, by the way, just quick little, he did, he was all over the place. Granted, he did that thing that every single call-up does where they were kind of relegated to the fourth line. But even on the fourth line, the stuff that you saw that made him such an interesting draft prospect was on display. Like, he was making some unbelievably, high IQ passes and plays. Yeah. But they were landing on the sticks of guys like Beck Mallenstein. And he wasn't able to translate. Or Peyton Krebs, who just doesn't quite have that shoot-first mentality. But, he it was a little glimpse, but he looked really solid. I liked it. I don't know if next year's the year that he's here all the time. I doubt it. It'd be a very disappointing summer if he's guaranteed a top 12 spot. I think another year in Roch would be good for him to cook some more, probably take Kulik's place on a permanent basis, since Kulik is almost certainly not going back down to Rochester to start next year. That would be absurd. But yeah, looking forward to this series, looking forward to more playoff hockey. I have been losing sleep for about 3-4 weeks now. Can't remember the last time I went to bed before 1 a.m. watching all these playoff games on the West Coast. It's been fantastic. Love it. Best time of the year.
Absolutely. If you've enjoyed this content, if you're watching on Twitter, please make sure you're giving us a follow. You'll find me at Duane S39. You'll find my co-host for night, producer Steve, at 2G1M Buffalo Rome. My normal co-host, Connor Hurley, at CHeroes13. Find us at 2 Goalies 1 Mike. If you're watching on Facebook, please sure you like and follow along. But most importantly, if you're watching on YouTube, hammer that like button, and please make sure you're subscribed. Hit the little bell icon so you know when we go live. Remember, this is brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from in 6 different Western New York locations and 1 in Rochester. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. Let them know we sent you. And with that being said, it's been episode 189. We'll talk to you later. Go Amerks, and as always, go Sabres.